Woolworths wasn't just a place to shop, it was where everyday life happened. From a quick bite at the lunch counter to browsing the aisles on a slow afternoon, it held a special place in our routines and in our memories. So how did Woolworths become such a beloved part of American life? And what led to its decline? Join us as we revisit those everyday moments that felt like magic, trace its rise and fall, and explore the legacy it left behind. It all began in 1879, when a young store clerk named Frank Woolworth had a bold idea that would change American retail forever. Instead of bargaining or guessing prices, he envisioned a store where everything was clearly marked, just 5 or 10 cents. His first store in Utica failed, but a second try in Lancaster, Pennsylvania became a sensation. There was no guessing with prices. You knew exactly what you'd pay. Shopping became simple and affordable. You didn't need to be rich. Just a little pocket change could get you something new or something useful. That simple idea sparked a retail revolution. Woolworths spread quickly across America, becoming a place where people shopped, gathered, and lingered just to take in the displays. By the early 1960s, there were over 2,000 Woolworth stores across the country, each one a familiar part of the neighborhood, woven into everyday life. Long before big box stores and digital price tags, there was the charm of the 5 and dime. At Woolworths, even a nickel or dime could buy you something you actually wanted. For kids, it was where allowance money turned into yo-yos, marbles, or candy. For parents, it was a place where a dollar actually went a long way. For families living on a budget, this was a game changer. You didn't have to be wealthy to shop there. You could walk in with a nickel and walk out with something useful or something fun. And it wasn't just the prices, it was the honesty of it. No haggling, no surprises. Everything was clearly marked and everything felt within reach. That kind of transparent pricing was new at the time, and it made shopping feel easy, even a little exciting. Woolworths helped turn shopping into an everyday experience, not just a special occasion. It brought people into the store more often, and it turned browsing into a habit. The 5 and dime model helped create the idea of modern retail as we know it: simple, affordable, and always inviting.
It's May Value Days at Woolworth, with savings for everyone. There are lots of summer values.
Woolworths wasn't just a store, it was an experience. The moment you stepped inside, there was a feeling you don't quite get anymore. The aroma of freshly popcorn from the snack counter mixed with the scent of new merchandise created something oddly comforting. And then, of course, there was the lunch counter. But we'll talk more about that later in the video. The atmosphere inside felt almost magical, especially to a child. The big display windows always had something new and eye-catching. You couldn't walk by without looking in. Inside, there were long aisles, shiny floors, and shelves that seemed to go on forever. There was always something to pick up, even if you didn't plan on buying. Woolworths was one of those places where you could spend an hour just browsing, and somehow it was always fun. And what a variety they offered. It wasn't about luxury, it was about accessibility. Parents could find household staples, small gadgets, or flip through racks of Beatles records and cassette tapes. Kids gravitated toward yo-yos, bouncy balls, candy by the scoop, and bubble gum. You didn't need much in your pocket to walk out with something that made your day. There was always that one aisle you couldn't resist. Whether it was the toys, the pet supplies, or the greeting cards, Woolworths had something for everyone, and that's what made it feel special. But if there was ever a time Woolworths truly came alive, it was during the holidays. Around Christmas, it turned into a wonderland. The windows lit up with festive scenes, twinkling lights, and decorative displays that made you stop and stare. Inside, there were rows of ornaments, glittering garlands, shiny wrapping paper, and artificial trees. Boxes of colorful bulbs, plastic Santas, and snow globes lined the shelves. The scent of tangerines mixed with the faint smell of pine from wreaths. It was unforgettable. For kids, it felt like magic. For parents, it was a one-stop shop for gifts, cards, and decorations. Many folks didn't just shop at Woolworths. They worked there. For some, it was their very first job. For others, a steady place to build a career. You'd often see familiar faces behind the counter, folks who lived in the same town and knew the community well. That everyday connection gave the store a friendly, neighborly feel. It wasn't just a place to shop, it was part of the town itself. Always nearby, always welcoming. Woolworth's lunch counter wasn't just a spot to grab a bite. It was a part of the experience, a place where the store came alive in an entirely different way. The smell of grilled cheese sandwiches, burgers sizzling on the flat top, the clink of utensils, and the soft chatter of customers made it feel more like a cozy diner than a counter in a department store. As kids, it was a real treat to sit up on those red vinyl stools that spun just enough to make your parents nervous. Maybe you ordered a hot dog, a slice of buttered bread, or that classic grilled cheese with a pickle on the side. And if you were lucky, a milkshake or a sundae with whipped cream and a cherry on top. For many of us, eating at Woolworth's felt like the highlight of the day. But beyond the memories of lunch specials and counter stools, this place holds a deeper meaning in American history. In 1960, at the Woolworths in Greensboro, North Carolina, 4 black college students sat down at the whites-only lunch counter and politely asked for service. They were denied, but they remained seated in peaceful protest. That brave act sparked a movement, the sit-in campaigns, and marked Woolworth's lunch counter as a pivotal site in the fight for civil rights. So while many of us remember the counter for its grilled cheese or ice cream floats, it's important to also remember the courage that unfolded there. That simple counter stood at the crossroads of everyday life and historical change. For families, it was a place to rest, to gather, to share a treat. For children, it was exciting to order like the grown-ups and eat side by side with parents or siblings. It wasn't fancy, but it was familiar, friendly, and full of character. In the end, the Woolworth's lunch counter became a cultural icon, a place where memories were made, a slice of American life served with fries and a smile. By the late 1980s and into the 90s, the world began to change, and Woolworth's had a hard time keeping up. The charm of the five and dime couldn't quite compete with the rise of big-box retailers like Walmart and Target, where shoppers found lower prices and huge selections all in one place. Suburban malls were booming, downtown shopping districts were fading, and people's habits were shifting fast. Woolworths tried to stay in the game. They launched Woolco, a line of larger discount department stores aimed at competing with the big chains. But even Woolco eventually closed its doors in the US by the early 80s. The company pivoted again, investing in specialty stores, including one you'll definitely recognize, Foot Locker. In fact, while the Woolworth name vanished from American storefronts in 1997, the parent company lives on today as Foot Locker Inc. And then there's the Woolworth name overseas. You might come across a Woolworths in the UK or Germany, or even South Africa or Australia, but those have no real connection to the American chain. Different companies, same name. A reminder of just how iconic the brand became around the globe. Still, for millions of Americans, the memories of Woolworths are deeply personal. It wasn't just a place to shop, it was a part of growing up. A Saturday stop with mom, a lunch counter treat after school, that first job behind the register. And though the stores are gone, their spirit lingers. One of the most powerful reminders is in Greensboro, North Carolina, where the original lunch counter is preserved at the International Civil Rights Center and Museum, a place where history was made through peaceful protest and quiet courage. Woolworths may no longer be part of our daily lives, but it remains part of who we are. It was a store, yes, but also a feeling, a rhythm, a slice of American life that left a lasting imprint on a generation. What's your Woolworths memory? I'd love to hear it. Share it in the comments. And if you know someone who remembers Woolworths too, send this their way. Thanks so much for watching. If this brought back some good feelings, there's plenty more like it here on my channel.